This is black hole theory, creation, particle space, and wave function brief. Okay, my last vid I left off with an example. We're going to take a planetary mass, a gas giant, something like Jupiter, which is, I guess, described as lacking the energy or the mass of becoming a star, but just right on the edge of it. So now, take a super gas giant filled with primal plasma or gases, uh, neutral types, or any mixture. Parts per million as a whole would be a factor. Uh, they'd have to not allow combustion in general. I know this isn't actually atmosphere, but the gases do indeed create one. So, all right, again, collapsing this item. Uh, the overall state of this gas giant is dirty, meaning it's more like an iceberg. It's going to have a mix of other particles of mass and other fluid energies in it. Okay, this is going to result in ice formations from compressed gases from the collapse, of course. That's ultimately large wave function, but this ice would contain active energy pockets, spaces for fluid spaces, and particle spaces for more or less gas and particles of mass. Now, fluid water under this condition, of course, it wouldn't freeze. It'd be more likely to attain a higher gravity state, such as going from regular water to what's described as heavy water. Okay, now all these effects just end up being in surface tension against each other because most of it, whether it be energy or liquid matter, would have surface temperature, surface tension. Okay, now these tension lines, that's where most of your energy, most of your fluid would be. Like your solid metals would be their own spaces, water would be its own space. Anything that's lighter in S, such as oils, whatnot, would move in between these spaces. Now, at highway means just multiple directions, and speeds is, of course, variable speeds, and then with little to no resistance, depending on what they encountered. Now, this suggests inside limited space and outside limited space, which both are definitely there. Um, None of this stuff right here was used. There was no quantum mechanics applied. This guy's its own field. Okay, back to this gas giant. So, wave function. We know some of the things that we're going to get out of here. The emission overall is going to be cold. So it's going to be cold radiant energy, and it'll be active in blue shift, or blue spectrum. Um, Objects with little mass, such as in this creation, again, ice would gravitate towards the outside through more or less a bubble matrix effect. So mass objects with tight liquid structure would be expelled to the outside if it wasn't heavy enough to stay to the inside. And some objects, of course, could remain suspended, although possibly not forever. They could be suspended in the tension itself. So this effect could be applied to internal dynamics, internal matter space. Now, vacuum and its positive or vacuum effect, that's generally in time spaces, which is more or less timed energy spaces. I mean, because we know exactly how long the energy is going to last here. So we're in a pocket. So and of course these spaces are in between mass objects, which is either massive balls of, say, liquid steel, or a massive ball of energy such as water, which you could actually pass into if you were heavy enough. All this was used geomath. That there's no quantum mechanics. There's no divisions. It's all basically earth science. So I think that gives structure. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the atom and energy effects.
Okay. Now, having just gone through that, we're going to assume that these mechanics, geomechanics, should be applied to wave function. So if you're looking for the scratchy pattern in wave function, again, I suggest that you're using quantum mechanics, and that's not applying to our particular space. Now, now, energy function cannot be stopped. Some may argue this point, but it's wave energy. So it just changes its shape, changes its flow, continues to go. Can't be stopped. An example of this, well, there's still Big Bang static around. All right, the atom. A stable base unit of energy, a whole unit. I don't think anybody will argue with me on that. Now, we're going to do a little thought experiment here and start off with this particular setup. One molecule gas, everybody's pretty familiar with, just one molecule. Now, if we introduce this guy to space, he suffers the effects of vacuum. Pulls it apart, it breaks this little magnetic bond, or however it's been described, and these guys go in different directions. Now, this doesn't happen to the oxygen particle or either one of the hydrogen. That would suggest right there that they're under positive pressure just because of their energy. They're positive pressure and vacuum, which puts them in a vacuum state versus space. Now, if the atom is structured like this with energy tethers, it would do the same thing that this guy does in space. Because the energy holding this guy together is no more than the energy holding this guy together. Okay? You bring a fish up from the ocean too fast, it explodes. You put a guy into space without a suit, he also explodes. It's listed as vacuum, but your body's, well, we'll leave it there. These statements. Let's look at the atom like this. It's one part. It's in one particle part and two energies. Looks a little strange, but stated effects, this guy kind of has to stay inside of his own energy footprint in order to stay stable. Otherwise, outside effects would be too great for this guy to function. Again, it is under positive pressure. The only way that that can happen is if there is something inside to do that. A little experiment. This guy, okay, 5 grams. This guy, also 5 grams. We notice a size difference, but as far as charge is concerned, they're pretty much equal because they're equal in mass. Now, we add a third figure. First, how do we quantify this guy? Well, technically, he's probably about 2.5 times or half the size of these guys. Half the size of these guys? 2.5 grams, right? So we introduce this guy here, and now, by this equation and influence, this guy is increased in energy. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you introduce this particle in between these other two energies, this particle is always at a higher energy state. One, it would have to be equal to these guys to even affect them. So this guy's value is set at 5, the same as these are before it's even introduced. Now it's in a state of equilibrium. But now you have to take stated energy effects, the positive and the negative, or the hot and the cold, and apply both of these to the center particle. This would relate to oscillation. You can have AC power movement inside the space of an atom. It's forward, backwards, up, down, circular movement, of course, and it can be worked out because it's on a timing sequence. sequence. Now, no A versus or equals 0, no divisions, only whole numbers. And that's it.